Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Sal Straight Post. How you're doing? And welcome to another episode of Chatterbox. Today, I'm joined by the legend, former Everton, Leicester, West Ham, England international, Tony Cottee. How you doing, mate?
How you doing, Sal? Yeah, I'm really well, thanks.
Yeah, just enjoying the lockdown. Been keeping busy.
I wouldn't say I've been enjoying it, but I've certainly been trying to keep busy, mate. Yeah, I think hopefully we can see the light at the end of the tunnel now, and we want football to get back to normal. I've been very privileged. Obviously, I've been able to carry on working for Sky, so that's been nice. Gets you out of the house, but I think we're all itching and ready for the fans to come back and get cracking with things now.
Yeah, I agree. Want to go and see some games again. Go up to Manchester again. See my team play. It's been a bit crazy this last year, but an eye opener, and hopefully we'll learn from it. We'll get stronger, and we'll appreciate those little small things that we took for granted. Like going to a game.
Listen, I'm as guilty as anyone of that, Sal. I think we all moan about it. I've got a little cough or a little cold or something, or I'm tired, or I don't feel like doing something or whatever. I think it's been a bit of a reality check for everyone. So I'm sure we'll come out the other side and we'll all sort of learn from the experience we've all been through, and hopefully we can, as I say, get back to some sort of normality, not just in football but in life as well.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that the stadiums being without fans has impacted the league somewhat in the unpredictability of the league? Because it's been a bit crazy this season. Anyone could beat anyone. And it seems like it's more of a level playing field. Do you think that's a fair statement?
No, I think it's a really fair comment. I think if you look at individual games, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking Man United losing at home to Spurs 6-1, which is your team. Would that have happened with fans? Possibly not. Liverpool losing 7-2 at Aston Villa, would that have happened? I don't know. Possibly not. And Liverpool losing 5-6 home games on the trot at Anfield, that wouldn't have happened, And then you look on the other extreme of things. You look at Sheffield United, have had a really poor season, and Bramall Lane's a really tough place to go to normally, but not when there's not any fans there. And then you look at one of my old clubs, West Ham, doing really, really well without fans. So, yeah, I think it's I don't know. I mean, I just hope that we get some sort of crazy things happening, in other words, West Ham qualifying for the Champions League would be nice. Your springs, obviously, but I think we're all saying it's been a very unpredictable and unusual season, and I hope that at the end of it there are some really sort of great things that have happened. But as I said right at the start, I really want to get back to normal. But you can't deny the fact that without fans, we keep saying football without fans. I've been to the games. I've been to Premier League games, Championship League One. They are not the same game. Yes, we're playing football, but it's not the same game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, fans couldn't come back quicker, to be honest with you. Bring it back to West Ham. Obviously, David Moyes, he's doing a great job at West Ham at the moment. Do you feel like he was given a fair crack at the United job? Because this season, West Ham have been phenomenal, obviously, and they could qualify for the Champions League, which was unheard of a couple of years ago, And do you think he was given a fair crack at that United job, David Moyes, or was he sacked too soon, so to speak?
I think it would have been a really, really difficult decision for himself, because the first thing I would say is whoever followed Sir Alex Ferguson was on a hiding to nothing. Whoever followed Arsene Wenger and any of the great managers that you can name, all the different clubs throughout the country, when you follow a legend, it is very, very difficult. And in general, you would say that you shouldn't take the job. But having said that, when you've done your apprenticeship at Preston and then you've done a brilliant job at Everton, and there was obviously a connection between David and Sir Alex, and when you get offered Manchester United, how many times in your life and your career are you going to get offered the Manchester United job? And you can't sort of really say, well, because I'm following Sir Alex, I won't take the job. I think you have to take the job. But I'm only saying all that because I think that sort of leads into what happened with him, because he wasn't even there a season, was he really? And I don't think he was really given a fair crack at the whip. The problem you've got at United, as you well know, Sal, is that it's about results and it's about success. And you can play the best football in the country. If you don't win a trophy at Manchester United, you're going to be in trouble come the end of the season, because that's what Manchester United are judged on. But I think he should have been given more time. Obviously, they jumped around after that, didn't they? Van Gaal, and then obviously Jose was there, and now Ole's got the job. So they've jumped around with the managers. But I think if they'd have given David Moyes a bit more time, and I know that's difficult to do in the circumstances, if they'd have done that, I think I think he ultimately would have been successful at United.
Yeah, patience is something that don't exist in football anymore. Obviously, you don't get 3-4 years to do well at a club, unfortunately.
You don't get 3 or 4 months. It's a cruel business, and as I say, it is results driven. And at any club, and this applies to Manchester United as well. If you lose, for example, 6 games on the trot, you're going to be questions asked, and there's big demand. The fans have got more input with social media, etc. And the constant media attention that you get, especially at a great club like Manchester United. So you've got to get results, and that's the thing. You don't get the time anymore. I wish that managers did get the time, and maybe it might be a little bit different because of what we've gone through with COVID. I think clubs might not necessarily have the money spare. They might not want the turnaround that before COVID it was, oh, he's no good, he's not doing very good, let's get rid of him, let's get another one in. But I think now there might just be a little bit of settling down. And I think, there's been, I'm trying to think of managers that have changed in the Premier League this year, but there's certainly not as many as what normally happens, especially with the clubs down the bottom.
Exactly. It's a bit too risky at the moment to make any changes, to upset the apple cart too much, In regards to Moyes, they brought in Lingard from United. He's been absolutely, rebirth of Lingard completely. Knocking on the England door, being picked for the England squad recently as well. Why do you think that is? Why do you think he struggled so much at United? Whereas he seems like a new player at West Ham. It's hard to put your finger on it, really.
Yeah, well, he wasn't struggling 2 or 3 seasons ago, was he? He was very much a part of the England team that got to the semi-finals of the World Cup. And I always looked at Jess and thought, wow, he looks a good player. But sometimes, sometimes in life, you can lose focus, you can lose direction. I think in general, I don't think that fans always understand what might be going on in a player's personal life, because the personal life does affect the player. And I know everyone says, oh yeah, he's getting loads of money and he's a professional footballer. He's, all these things, all the sort of cliches that are panned out. But I think with a player, your personal life does impact on your professional career. And I get the impression, I don't know. So I don't know the lad. I'm only looking in from the outside. It appears that he had a few personal issues. And when you lose your place at a football club, especially a great club like United, where you've got so many good players there, it's very hard to get back in the team. And we've seen players, that over the years at United who 2-3 seasons, really, really good. Something happens, an injury or personal issue, whatever it might be, and they can't get back in the team. And I think in my opinion, Jess took that. It was the hard option. The hard option was going on loan. The soft option was stay at United, because you've got your contract, you're getting your money, you're living with your family, going out with your mates, whatever it might be. You're doing all the things you can normally do. But to go to West Ham, he took a risk. But, David Moyes knew what he was getting, obviously with a connection, and Jess obviously needed a bit of a change. And I think getting him a couple of 100 miles away from Manchester, where he's down in London, there's no distractions of going out with the bright lights of London at the moment, as there's not in Manchester, obviously. But, he's down there, he's fully focused on his football, and he's been absolutely fantastic.
So you would sign him? Would you pay the money for him if you had the opportunity, or a swap deal with Declan Rice, for example? Would you be interested in that as a West Ham lad?
Well, listen, as a West Ham fan, and obviously that's where my loyalties are. I played for some great clubs, but I'm very much, first and foremost, a West Ham fan. Firstly, we don't want Declan going anywhere, because if you're trying to build a football club, you need to keep your captain, especially when he's only 22 years of age and he's one of your best players. So I don't want to see Declan going anywhere. And secondly, I want to see us sign Jess Lingard. Yeah, why not? If it's 20, 25 million, whatever, the way he's playing, he's worth that all day long. I want to see both players stay at the football club. But in order to keep players, forget about competing with other clubs, but in order to keep your best players, you have to do one or two things. You've either got to get into Europe or you've got to win a trophy. Obviously, West Ham aren't going to win a trophy this year. They're out of both the cups. They're not going to win the Premier League. We know that. But they've got a really good chance of either getting in the Champions League or, probably more realistically, getting in the Europa League. So either way, if you get into Europe, there's a little carrot dangle for Jess, there's a carrot dangle for Declan. Stay with us, we're in Europe next season, and then you then go again and see what happens.
Yeah, spot on. You've played, bringing it to your career, you've played under some great managers in your career: Harry Redknapp, Martin O'Neill. what are the glaring differences you found between the managers you played under?
Oh, so many. I mean, I would say there's 5 managers that I would put in the same breath. I probably had. I've never added it up, but how many managers I actually did have. But I'm guessing about 12, 13 managers in total. But there's 5 managers that deserve a mention. You've mentioned 2 of them, which is Martin O'Neill and Harry Redknapp. The great John Lyall, who was my first manager at West Ham. Howard Kendall, who was a great manager at Everton. And Sir Bobby Robson, my England manager. And I think all 5 of those managers, great football people. In some cases, excellent footballers as well before they become managers. So yeah, but they're also different. I think Harry had a very sort of laid-back attitude to things, but when he got angry, you knew he was the boss without a doubt. He was a good coach and good man manager as well, which is obviously a big part of the game. Martin O'Neill was completely different. He wasn't a good coach, and I think he'd probably be the first to admit that, but he got good people in to do it for him. But as a manager, absolutely outstanding. Howard was a good coach. Bobby Robson was a good coach, and John Lyall was an incredible coach. So they all had their different ways and mannerisms and dealing with players, and how they would cope in the modern game. I'd like to think that they would cope in the modern game. I think if you look at your great manager, who obviously spanned the decades, at Aberdeen and then 86 at Man United, and what was it, 23 years? Was it 27 years? Wasn't it? Was it 27 years? I'm trying to think.
Well, he was there for 26 years or 27 years.
27 years. I mean, 27 years is a generation of footballers. And, when he first started, you had all the drinking culture of the 80s that was there, and he sort of weeded a few of those out, and then he changed with the golden generation to come through, the class of 92, and then towards the end, in the 21st century, you're then dealing with very highly paid players. And I think the great managers adapt to that. And I think all the managers I mentioned there, the 5 managers, in my opinion, my best managers, I think they would all adapt to what's going on in the game today. They might get a little frustrated with some of the things, but I think they could all manage in the modern game.
One of the first games I watched as a Man United fan was the 1988-89 season. You were playing for Everton. 1-1, the score was, and you scored a goal. You got a great record against United. Even in the great season 98-99, you scored a goal against United in the opening day of the season. You seem to love playing against United. You scored a few goals against them. In your career, who was the best United player you played against?
It's a tough one to answer. I mean, obviously you have your favourites in terms of the attacking players and the flair players and what they can and can't do. I mean, I loved Brian Robson when I was younger as a kid. I used to love watching Robbo play. I had the privilege of being in the England squad with him. And then you had someone like Ray Wilkins, a completely different player, but what a player he was. And then into the modern era, the class of 92 and all the great players, Ronaldo's and all them, But in terms of me playing against a United player, I would always go on the player that I'm playing against. In other words, a defensive player. And I think Gary Pallister was a great player. Bruce Sear had a really good partnership. I think I played against Jaap Stam towards the end of the 90s when he was at the club. He was a tremendous defender. But I think I probably would go to Paul McGrath. I think he was a really tough player to play against. He was in the team when I first played at Old Trafford as a 17-year-old in the FA Cup. And he was playing for Man United. And the thing I found with Paul is that, in general, defenders were you felt that they could sort of doze off a little bit, or they wasn't very quick, and you always felt that you had a bit of an advantage. But when you played against Paul McGrath, he didn't doze off, and he was so quick, it was ridiculous. Then whenever you chased after the ball, his positional sense and awareness was incredible, and he always used to be in the right position. And I used to think myself as quite a clever centre forward. I knew where to run and when to run. And whenever I went to run, he was already there. And you think, how does this guy do that? And his reading of the game. I mean, people always talk about the great Bobby Moore, how he used to read the game. And I'm not comparing Paul McGrath with Bobby Moore. It's 2 different eras. But, in terms of reading the game, Paul McGrath was a sensational player to play against. Horrible because you didn't get much of a kick. But, I can appreciate what a great footballer he was.
You played against a great side, the 98-99 United side, right at the beginning of the season. There was the 2-2 draw, obviously Beckham's return from the 98 World Cup, all that emotional stuff. Could you envisage United going on to that type of success, playing against them Was there something about that team that you noticed, that greatness, for example, that when you were playing against them?
I think they was building up to it. The young boys have been in the team for 5-6 years. But at that point, Sir Alex had signed good players in the transfer market. The likes of Roy Keane and people like that. There was some really, really top players in that team. And when we played them in that first game of the season, and we drew 2-2, but we only drew because David Beckham scored in the 97th minute, or a typical Fergie time goal, as you could well remember. And we should have won the game really. And I think on the day that when we played them at the first game, you didn't think to yourself, oh, they're going to go on and have a sensational season, because they really laboured to get a 2-2 draw. But when we played you again in January, and I think United won 6-2 at Filbert Street or something, it was a crazy game.
Yeah.
And after that game, you're looking at it thinking, wow, this is a good team that are just starting to get going. And I always felt that Sir Alex's teams, they never really played until after Christmas. They sort of cantered through the first 3-4 months of the season. Sometimes they had bad results or dip in form, or I don't know, let's say 6th or something at the new year, when it went into the new year, and then all of a sudden they go bang, bang, bang. And that particular season, as you can well remember, they just cracked it, not only in the league, FA Cup, and then to round it off with what happened with the Champions League final was just an incredible season for the club.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was just meant to be. The way the season started to the way it ended, everything just went their way in that season, and it was a phenomenal season. In regards to yourself, you played with some great players, obviously at West Ham, at Everton. Who's the greatest player you've played with, and the most underrated player as well you've played with?
In terms of great players, I love playing with Peter Beardsley at Everton. He was a fantastic centre forward. Had a great partnership with Frank McAvenny. 1 year at West Ham with Trevor Brooking, where Trevor's in his last season of his career, and Trevor was a fantastic player. But I probably would go for Alan Devonshire as the most talented and best player I played with. And I think, unfortunately with Dev, outside of West Ham, I think everyone at West Ham knew how great a player he was, and people that watched him play would have seen how good a player he was. But he never really got rewarded with the caps that he should have won. He only won 8 England caps, and we've always been crying out, even in the modern era with Scholesy playing on the left wing. We've always wanted a left-sided player, and Alan Dev was, although he was right-footed, he played on the left, and he was an incredible player. I love playing with him. In terms of underrated, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I would probably go for someone like Muzzy, is it maybe at Leicester, or even someone like Jeff Pike at West Ham in my first spell at West Ham. Ian Bishop was another one who was a great player at West Ham. Very, very talented players, very skillful players, but not always appreciated by the fans as such. And because I think you get that, and you probably got it with your team now, so that you've got players in there who, I don't know, maybe it's Fred or someone, I don't know, someone who does a good job for the team, and the players really appreciate him, but sometimes the fans don't appreciate what that player's doing. And I think when you talk about underrated players, those players I mentioned, I think they would come into that category.
And West Ham, obviously being a school of talent, they produced some fantastic players over the years. I would put John Moncur and players in that category as well. You have some great pros there. In regards to yourself, your goal scoring record is phenomenal. Obviously, you're only behind Shearer and Ian Rush in 50 years of Premier League football. Do you feel like you deserved more England caps, for example? Especially when England were struggling during the 90s. Obviously, they didn't qualify for the 1994 World Cup, and up till 96, they started to get a lot better. But do you feel like you should have had more England caps?
Yeah, I think it's one of the great frustrations, I think, looking back over my career. You're right. I scored a lot of goals, and maybe I deserve more England caps. I don't know. But I think when I first broke into the team, I just missed out on going to the 86 World Cup. And then, of course, England had a really good competition, and the Beardsley-Lineker partnership was born in that World Cup. And that sort of pretty much continued for about 4 years, really, up until the 1990 World Cup. So I was a bit unfortunate that I was there in that time where they'd already had the partnership developed. When I sort of lost my place at Everton 89, I think it was. And I got back scoring goals. I missed out on the Euros of 88. I missed out on the World Cup of 90. And then the 92 Euros was a complete disaster, but I was actually playing well and scoring goals. So, perhaps I could have been involved in that. I think Graham Taylor was the manager, wasn't he, after Bobby Robson. And then 94, we didn't, as you quite rightly said, we didn't even qualify. And then you then seem to have, all of a sudden, there was Ian Wright, Les Ferdinand, Robbie Fowler, Teddy Sheringham, Alan Shearer, all these great players, that could play.
Stan Collymore, all these.
Stan, yeah.
Robbie Fowler couldn't even get in the team. Andy Cole.
And Michael Owen came into it as well. So, by the end of the 90s, football runs in cycles. I always say they're very cyclical, and you have times where, I can remember throughout my life, I'm 55 now, and you look at that England team and you think, and there's been times where you've been saying, we ain't got any goalkeepers, and then we ain't got any left backs, or we ain't got any right backs, there's no centre forwards, and all of a sudden the wheels turn, and then you get an influx of players come in. And if you look at that right back position now, we've got 4 top quality right backs.
Yeah.
You look at the left back position, we've got some good left backs as well. One at your place, Luke Shaw, we've got Ben Chilwell. There's good left backs, so it always goes around. But coming back to myself, I got 7 England caps, and the most frustrating thing about it, Sal, is I played 7 times for England, and I've got my caps, and I've got 6 caps, because on one of the caps they put 2 names. So I've not even got 7 caps. I've got 6 caps. One of the caps, Chile and Scotland, on the 1 cap. So in my box of caps, there's 6 caps, not 7, which is, you're thinking, well, come on, you can't be that hard up the FA that you can't give a player a cap for each cap. I don't know whether a lot of it was to do with tournament football. If you played 6 games in a World Cup finals, for example, they put 6 names on the cap, and it counts as a cap, but you don't get 6 caps, you only get 1 cap, and I don't know if they still do it. I hope they don't, because it seems a bit bizarre. But to play 7 times and only get 6 caps, I think that's a bit unfair. I think.
Well, you play for England. That's good. You've got players like Steve Bruce who didn't get a cap.
Well,
he once scored 15 goals from defence in one season, and he didn't get a cap.
No, I think of Billy Bonds, Julian Dix, even Mark Noble at West Ham. Some really good players West Ham have had and never got an England cap. And there's many, many more players that we could spend a lot of time thinking about that just were top players and never ever got an England cap. So I feel very privileged and proud to play for my country. Yeah,
of course. And bringing it back to the modern day, I'm a Leighton lad, around the corner from where you're from.
Yep.
I wanted to talk about this Super League that they're thinking of doing. Obviously, Man City, the Premier League is getting richer and richer. Man City have got so much money. They're just, running away with it. There's talk of them buying Haaland and Grealish.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this is harming the game in somewhat, in the grassroots level of the game? Because being raised in Leighton, I had a floodlight in my garden. I remember you coming there on a pre-season friendly, and the atmosphere it had in the town that West Ham were playing, at Leighton Orient. It was fantastic. Do you think that the money in the Premier League and leading on to a Super League would harm the grassroots level, the football in the community, so to speak?
Well, I don't know about the grassroots. I think a lot of the top clubs do put a lot of time and effort and money into the community. So I think the community will be looked after, the football community, and real grassroots level. I think that will be okay. The clubs that I do worry for are Leighton Orient, for example. Near me, I live in Southend. I've got Southend are in all sorts of trouble at the bottom of the league, and Colchester aren't far above them. So very good clubs with lots of history, and like some of these clubs have been going for over 100 years, and you can't just say let's look after the top boys and forget about everyone at the bottom of the pyramid, because you need that pyramid to feed up. And I think it's the great thing about English football that a club like Leighton Orient, it would never happen, of course, at the moment, but a club like Leighton Orient can dream, and if a billionaire came along and pumped a load of money into the club, they could go from League 2 to the Premier League, a bit like what Bournemouth did and like what Swansea have done. And there's other clubs, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, who have been sort of down in the doldrums. Even Leicester were in League 1, and then they've gone and won the Premier League. So you've got to be, the teams have got to be, you've got to be able to dream. As a player, as a fan, as a club, you've got to start the season believing that you've got a chance to compete. Will the Super League happen? I'm guessing as we move along the road, I think it will sort of go in that direction. I always find it a bit baffling that it's called the Champions League for example, because obviously it was the European Cup before then, and it was very much only if you won your domestic league. And I understand why it's been expanded, but if you're going to call it the Champions League, then make it into a league. But by doing that, you can't take away from the Premier League. I mean, if you said to people around the world, do you want to watch the Champions League or do you want to watch the Premier League? I'm guessing there'll be a lot of people who possibly would say Champions League, but I think the answer would probably be Premier League. I think the Premier League is the shining light around the world. People want to watch the Premier League. So, listen, make all the alterations you want. I think it's going to happen. So whether we like it or not, and the rich will get richer, and we know how it works. And make all the alterations, but we must protect the Premier League. And with the Premier League comes the leagues below that. Our pyramid, if you like, we've got to protect the pyramid.
Now, bringing it on to social media, I want to ask you your opinions on social media. Obviously, it's a new thing. It's a new generational thing. Thierry Henry deleting his account. How do you feel? What needs to be done, for example, in regards to online trolling and abuse that some players are getting? I mean, obviously, if you're in the spotlight, you're going to get a lot. I recently interviewed Jason McAteer, and obviously he's a big ex-Liverpool player, and United fans didn't like it. And I just got a taste of what the abuse was like. It was absolutely ridiculous. What do you think needs to be done in regards to social media? Do you think leaving social media would be an option, or do you think that's just papering over the cracks of the real issue here?
Well, I think social media. Listen, I've got one of these. I've got an iPhone. I think I've got my work and my business and everything's on there. It's one of the greatest inventions of all time, without a doubt. But with Twitter and social media, listen, I know everyone's got an opinion nowadays, and it's right that people should have an opinion. But if you're going to abuse someone, whatever form that abuse comes in, it's not acceptable. And I don't care whether it's Thierry Henry or a guy who lives down the road. It doesn't matter whether you're high profile or not high profile. You should not be allowed to do that. In terms of the answer, Sal, I'm only thinking out loud here. I don't know. I think we all sort of go on Twitter. It doesn't really cost anything, does it? Or you go on Facebook or whatever it might be. We don't. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think you have to pay too much money, if at all, to go. I mean, really, what should be done is they should just make it so that people maybe have to register or have to pay £10 to join or whatever it might be, a really small amount. Give the money to charity, give it to the NHS or something, but register people and say, if you want to go on here and have an opinion, you can go on there and have an opinion, but it will be regulated. There will be people looking at what you put. You can't go on there and racially abuse someone. You can't go on there and be homophobic or whatever it might be. You're not allowed to be sexist, whatever it might be. We will be watching what you put on there, and that's really where I think we need to go with it. And the only way to do that is to register it so that, you maybe don't have to pay the money, but just register it so that people know. And all these companies that are making billions and millions of pounds out of the advertising and everything, good luck to them. I'm not jealous at all, but you can't just let people get on with it. And it's not acceptable for a footballer to go out there on a Saturday and try his hardest and maybe score an own goal as an example, and then on the following. After the game, everyone's saying he's rubbish, he's this, he's calling him all the names under the sun, because it is abuse. And the footballers are human. There's other. It's not just footballers. I'm talking across the spectrum as well. People in life, people are human, and if you read it, you can be affected by it. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I'm quite lucky that I don't get too many people abusing me. I try not to be too controversial. When I say things, you try and make a point, or I'm doing this today, or whatever it might be. It's very general, but if you're someone who treads the line a little bit, or just tries to be a little bit controversial or something, I mean, the amount of stick people get, and why do you want to read it? Why does you want to put your family through it and everything? So I think something's got to be done, without a doubt. Making a stand. I think Swansea and someone else, was it? I can't remember the other team. They said they're going to boycott social media and all that. And I think something's got to be done. It's not, the basic point I make, it's not acceptable for anyone to go on whatever channel it might be or social media and say you're this, you're that. It's not acceptable anymore.
Yeah, 100% echo those thoughts. Gareth Bale was talking about obviously leaving social media, etc. The problem is people. It's too easy, as you said. You can get your account deleted, then start up a new account under a fake profile, fake picture, and do it again. This is the issue.
They are cowards because they don't want to give their real identity because they know that if they get pulled up on it, they're not going to be able to go on there anymore. But stand up and be counted. Don't hide behind a fake name or a fake alias or whatever. This something needs to be done, and it needs to be looked at. And listen, I'm not a politician, but there's many things that annoy me in life, and that is one of them. I've got to be honest.
Yeah. So, because people, when they're writing things, certain things affect people in different ways. Obviously, mental health as well. You don't know what the person's going through on that particular day, for example. And when people abuse people, they don't think about that, And we're all human beings at the end of the day. Like, if I interview a former footballer of Liverpool, I'm a Man United fan. It's football at the end of the day. It's banter. It's a sport. Yeah, we have a laugh. We give our friends a bit of stick if we beat them, or if they're, because a lot of my friends are Liverpool fans, a lot of my friends are Arsenal, West Ham. Being from East London, it's like, and it's a bit sad that people go beyond football and beyond banter, because banter's fine, but when you start going personal, all that, I hope your mum dies of AIDS, which was a Man United fan said to Jason McAteer.
And it's ridiculous. Like it's unacceptable. So we need to weed out these people and that. Listen, by all means, unlucky mate, you lost 3-0 today. We was better than you, and have a bit of banter. Of course, that's what we love football so much. Why we love the game, and whether it's going down the pub or whether it's just going on your phone and giving your mate a stick. I've done it the other week when West Ham were 3-0 up against Arsenal. I texted me mate, and of course Arsenal got 3 goals. Sometimes it's not the best thing to do.
Yeah,
it is what it is. But yeah, banter's fine, but abuse is not. It's not acceptable anymore.
Yeah, spot on. Bringing it back to United, I want to know your thoughts on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The job he's doing. He seems to have steadied the ship somewhat. Do you feel like he's the right guy for United to take United to that next level, which is challenging for the title?
Yeah, I think so. It's a difficult one because, listen, I like Ollie. I don't know Ollie as a person, but I like him when I see him interviewed and everything. He comes across as a nice guy. He was a very good footballer, as we know. And he's gone into the club under difficult circumstances, obviously, following on from Mourinho. And, the one thing you have to do, you do have to steady the ship. You've got to get everyone on board. You've got to try and get the players believing in what you're doing. You've got to improve the squad. And, let's be honest, United have always had fantastic players. The players have always been there. But you can have the best players in the world. If you don't play as a team, it doesn't count for anything, Leicester won the Premier League because they was the best team. It didn't have the best players, they had the best team. And that is what Manchester United have got to look to get. You could argue, in a way, maybe Man City have got the best players at the moment because they've spent the most money. But you can beat teams like that, as Man United have done, as we know. You can beat them if you're a better team. And I think Ollie deserves a chance to take the club forward. They're going to qualify for the Champions League. There's no doubt about that. And so they're doing really well with that. I know they got knocked out of the FA Cup by Leicester, which was a big blow for them, wasn't it? But they've still got Europe. Still in Europe as well, aren't they, Sal?
Yeah, they're in the Europa League. Granada. They should get through to the semi-finals too.
Yeah, they should do. So they've still got things to look forward to. And I think sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. It's all right saying, let's get rid of Ollie, let's get a top manager in or whatever, and then you get rid of Ollie, and then you realise that the 5 top managers that everyone wanted, they're all at a club or they're not available, and then you're then going down the list and maybe get someone in who's not as good as Ollie, or even could be even worse than Ollie. So there's no reason for me to panic and change at the moment. You've got to give him time. We started off our conversation by talking about time and patience and everything. I think that's where Manchester United are. They're going to be in the Champions League next year. They're either going to win the Europa League or they're going to be in the top 4. And either way, they'll be playing Champions League football. Get the fans back into the stadium and let's see what happens once we're back into normality. See what the fans are like. Because the fans will judge Ollie more than me. I'm not a Man United fan. If you're a Man United fan, you go to the game, you sit in the Stretford End or whatever, and then you make the choice. Yeah, and you decide whether you're going to boo Ollie or whether you're going to cheer Ollie, and the fans will make that decision. But at the moment, I don't see any reason to change it. Yeah, they've got to tweak the squad and tweak the team a little bit, but let's give him a little bit of time and see if he can make that work.
I think he needs a little bit of investment. I mean, he has spent a lot of money over the last 2 years, but I do think there's some positions there that need tweaking. We're not that far away. Obviously, we're second place in the league. I just feel like the team are missing a certain winning mentality, like winning trophy. Like if they won an FA, like a Europa League, for example, I feel like it do wonders for the team. Because it's that mentality, that winning the trophy mentality that we're missing at the moment. 4 years now since we won a trophy. So, I feel like if we win the Europa League, we take it from there, second place. I feel like it would do wonders for us. But we're through to the semi-final, more or less. I mean, touch wood. So hopefully we'll play Roma or Ajax in the semi, and we'll get to the final and go that step further. It's the same thing with Klopp. It took him a while to get over that step, that hurdle of semi-finals, losing semi-finals, losing finals.
First trophy, Sal. How long did it take Sir Alex?
It took him a while, and there's that famous game, was it against Oxford United? Oxford United? Yeah. Mark Robbins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that famous game that he would have got fired. The only thing I would say about Alex Ferguson, that he was proven that obviously Aberdeen, he changed the cycle of Celtic Rangers dominance, and he won a European trophy with Aberdeen beating Real Madrid. So he had that on his CV. The only thing people worry about Ole is that he hasn't got that on his CV, like a winning trophies on his CV. It's just that he's, but you can only see, you can only try, and give him a chance. I would say I would expect him to do something in the Europa League this season, because otherwise, it'd be 5 years without a trophy.
He does need to win a trophy. There's no doubt about that. But I think once we get back to next season with the fans back in, then, as I say, if they've won a trophy and the fans are back in, then everything will be good and they'll be moving forward. If they haven't won a trophy but they're in the Champions League, then you've got to perform in the Champions League. So I think next season will be a big season for Ole.
Agreed. And obviously, we don't want to go down the realms of Chelsea. Obviously, they sacked Frank Lampard. I felt that was very unfair, because obviously he entered the season without signing any players last season. He lost a couple of his best players. He ended up in the Champions League and he got fired, So I don't think we should be going down the realms of the Chelsea, for example, because I felt that was very unfair on Lampard, etc. In regards to West Ham, the London Stadium, I mean, I just wanted to ask you, do you feel that they settled now in the London Stadium? They seem to be doing well there now. Is it a fortress like the Bowling Ground was, for example? Do you feel?
I think it's getting that way. I mean, it's been a real upheaval. I think when you've been at a stadium for 112 years and then all of a sudden you move to another stadium, let's be honest, it's a fantastic stadium, but it wasn't designed for football. It was designed for the Olympics. And I think that's what made it really difficult for the fans, because, anyone who ever went to Upton Park or the Bowling Ground, you was always very, very close to the pitch. It was a real fantastic atmosphere there, very much an old school ground, but just really, really great place to play your football. And I think when you go to the London Stadium, I mean, you're still a long way away from the pitch, whether you're a away fan or a home fan. There's a big distance, and it's taken a while for everyone to get used to it. We'll see. I mean, as I said earlier, hopefully West Ham will qualify for Europe, and then it'd be the same as what I said with Man United. You then get the fans back in and see where they go in European football next year. But the stadium, I think, rather than being a hindrance this year, it's certainly been a healthy place for the club, and I think their home form's up there with it's comparable with most of the top teams, I think, in the Premier League. So it's been a good season for the club. But again, let's see where we are with the fans next year.
Yeah, totally agree. Obviously, the last time West Ham were in Europe was the Intertotal Cup, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, well, but yeah, probably. I think they played a UEFA Cup, Europa League maybe about 4 years ago, and I think a couple of years running they got in because of the fair play, and they didn't even get past the qualifying round. So historically, Europe has not really been on the agenda for West Ham. And of course, if you get into Europe, then you've got to strengthen the squad, and you need a bigger squad. You're playing Thursdays, Sundays. So, if you're in the Europa League, that is, if you're in the Champions League, then you even more so, you've got to get top quality players into the club to compete. So it'd be a nice challenge as a long-suffering West Ham fan, not been in the title cup since 1999 or whatever it was. It's a long time ago, and they need to be up there and trying to compete with the big boys.
I used to, as a United fan, I used to hate going to Upton Park. The stroll down Green Street, what I mean? Going into it was a very daunting place to play.
Yeah.
I mean, even the great United side struggled there. You cost us a league title in 1995, obviously. It was always a tough place to go. I don't think it quite, the London Stadium quite has the same atmosphere, but
no, it doesn't.
Unfortunately, you have to move on. I mean, it was a small ground, tight, compact ground at the Upton Park. So I feel like you needed to move on. And it's good to see that they're doing well. David Moyes is doing well. Jesse Lingard is doing well. And hopefully they qualify for Europe. And who knows what will happen next season.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Tony, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great chat, down memory lane, etc. Any plans for the coming weeks or?
No, I'm meant to be at MK Dons and Portsmouth is my game at the weekend. I think they're talking about moving the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday, obviously with Prince Philip's funeral. So might well be working at either on another time on Saturday or maybe another day even. But that's my next game coming up, and that's it really. I'm sort of week to week at the moment. We've only got 5-6 weeks left of the season, but I'm still enjoying working for Sky. I love my work for Sky, and looking forward to getting back over to watch my team West Ham play as soon as I can.
And finally, England and the summer. Do you feel they have a chance with the Europa League, with the European Championships?
They've got a great chance. They really have. I mean, they've got a wonderful squad of players. I just hope that we don't pick a negative team. I don't want to see two holding midfield. It frustrates me. I think Gareth has done a fantastic job, but I think there are games where you only need one defensive midfielder. You don't need two. And I just hope tactically he gets it right. Because if he gets it right tactically, we've got the players there. We can compete with Belgium, with France, with Germany, Italy, Spain, whoever you want to name. Portugal are probably going to be a good team. We can compete with those teams if we pick the right squad or the right team on the day. So, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I think it's been a tough year for everyone. Really, really tough year. And we all wanted the Euros last year. It didn't happen. So at the end of this season, we can look forward to the Euros. And I think realistically, especially with the semis and the final at Wembley, England have got as good a chance as anyone of winning the tournament.
And what end to the year that will be England to win the European Championships. It would be such a great. I mean, I remember Euro '96.
Yeah.
What a way to finish the year. And come out of lockdown as well. It'd be an amazing thing.
Pick us up, Sal, don't we? I think. And although I was alive when England won the World Cup, I was only 1 year. So I don't really remember too much about the final. I've got to be honest. So I remember '96 and 2018 was a good tournament as well. But we need to push on. We need to win a trophy. I mean, it's like it's a long time. Your club Manchester United went a long time without winning a trophy. And my club West Ham, we're 40 years and counting, 41 years now. It's a long time to go without winning a trophy. England's even more than that. So we need England to win a trophy, whether it's the Euros or the World Cup. Who knows? We might win both. We've got some real quality players now, and kids coming through and everything. We've got a really, really good chance. Yeah,
it's all about luck at the end of the day. You need the rub of the green as well. We've been unlucky a couple of times.
They're good players, but you do need a little bit of luck. I agree with that.
Exactly. Cheers, Tony. Thanks for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Cheers,
mate. Ciao, mate.